Okay, good morning. For a few days, the class length would be shortened to 2 hours. Okay, till 3rd, Pabbat paper. Okay. So Weber, I think the basics of Weber and the power, domination, authority, all these are clear? Or you have any doubts? You have? हाँ भाई, है कोई doubt? Anybody? You did you go back and read what we have written? Yeah, did you understand? अच्छा. No doubt. कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है. कोई रिलेटेड क्वेश्चन नहीं, पूछना मत इंडिया चाइना के बारे में. ठीक है. वेबर से पूछो. डोमिनेंस मतलब बताओ, तुम रामायण पढ़ने के बाद पूछ रहे हो. हाँ, क्योंकि वेयर एवर द पावर विल बी एक्सरसाइज्ड, you will always see, initially we defined power as relational concept. So where will you see the power? Where you will see subjugation of one and the overpowering of that person by somebody else. तो डोमिनेशन दिखेगा कि नहीं दिखेगा? ठीक है, लेकिन डोमिनेशन जब लंबे समय तक किया जाए, if it is done for a long time, then it will become something like legitimate. Okay, that is why he is saying that domination word is better to be used than the power. Power तो stand alone भी किसी के पास हो सकता है ना, but power दिखेगा कैसे? जब वो प्रोसेस में आएगा. ठीक है, तो डोमिनेशन जब होगा किसी का, ठीक है, either through institution or through individuals or groups, then only you will see the power. Are you getting this point? So it is not an event which is saying, okay, that it is not about some short-lived exercise of power. Okay, domination conveys the idea of a long-term exercise of power of one over the other. Okay. Are you understanding? So we use the term structure of domination. नहीं किया था? किया था नहीं किया था? Structure of domination. गजनी बन गए हो तुम. कल का पढ़ा हुआ आज भूल गए. It is like patrilineal, but patrimony word is coming from there. The patrimonial systems need not necessarily be based on that. Okay, it is only giving a sense of being ancestral. तो basic patrimonial हो, patriarchalism हो या feudalism, तो basic undercurrent तो same है ना, कि there will be a loyalty based system. Okay, whether it is between father and son or it is between the father and his nephew or son and his somebody. So that is the basic logic of patrimonialism. Okay. So patrimonial relations. Okay, we were talking about the traditional domination or traditional authority. So traditional authority system. Okay, one IPS is caught cheating in the exam. In 2007, my third mains, I saw 2 students. Okay, they were cheating in the exam. Okay, so I asked them once that, okay, if you don't stop, I'll complain. So I said, I'm giving you one opportunity, don't do it. Okay, still they were doing. Okay, then I called the invigilator. Invigilator was a high school teacher. Okay, she said, अब मैं इनको क्या रोक सकती हूँ, तो IAS का एग्जाम दे रहे. I said, वैसे भी इन दोनों को कुछ नहीं आएगा, चीटिंग करने दो, कोई बात नहीं. ठीक है. The one who is following this process and that too in an IAS exam, so it is obvious that they will not be knowing. They would not be at the level of clearing the examination. Now because IPC section 420, cheating, wife, abetment to crime, anything which comes under IPC becomes the basis of dismissal. अगर प्रूव हुआ तो फाइन प्लस imprisonment both. Okay. One institute was making them do it, I think. in Hyderabad, Law Excellence. Law Excellence. Krishna Pradeep is there, right? Ram Babu. Vajiram, Pabad. बेचारे पबड़ ने क्या दिन दिखा दिया उसको. So, I think he was teaching Pabad only, that part. Okay, so traditional domination or authority, okay, it is visible in institutional forms like patriarchalism. Fine. All these three obviously are deriving their legitimate source from the tradition. Okay, so tradition is there, though in varying degrees. Okay. So we had written a little bit about patrimonialism. If I take monarchy, so monarchy will have elements of both the patriarchalism as well as the patrimonialism. Okay. How monarchy is probably one of the most legitimate institutions deriving its power from the tradition. Why it is legitimate? Because traditions are there. Okay. So tradition does not mean something which you are using today and leaving tomorrow. Okay. Tradition is coming from a long-term uses of certain things. When it becomes, or it is used for a long time, it becomes a law. Okay. So usage gets converted to law. Why law? Because it becomes equally binding on everybody. Okay. Including probably the monarch. Okay. But in monarchy, okay, if you take the king becomes the law. Okay. So that is one drawback. Okay, even though tradition is not that, it is not a weak thing, it is not just that simple to change the tradition. Okay, it has been established for years and years. That means this individual cannot dominate the tradition. Okay, but what is the tradition? The tradition gives him immense power. Okay. Okay. It is the divine theory of authority. Okay. So the king is deriving the power, okay, from some divine position he enjoys. Okay. Something transcendental in nature. Okay, it is considered that the position of king or the king is sacrosanct compared to the others in the society. So subjects and the king, or the administration that emerges on behalf of the king, that is also considered to be inheriting power from the divine theory. What is divine theory? King is the march of God on earth. Eagle. So king is the march of God on earth. Okay, that itself reflects that how strong position of a king is there in a patrimonial system. So this system will work on the same principles. Inheritance, the power will be inherited from one generation to the next generation. People will accept it probably because the tradition says so. Okay, they will not question it. Okay. But you see here it is a very important aspect that if he does not follow the tradition, then he is also susceptible to be overthrown. Okay, like Kautilya. So Kautilya or Arthashastra written by Kautilya. Okay, it is the visible manifestation, the literary manifestation of the traditional authority system. Okay, so he is describing in his Arthashastra a typical kind of monarchical system. Okay, where the king is deriving power from certain sources. What are the sources? Generally in a monarchy, Okay, taking example of this. Okay, what are the sources of the power of the king? Tradition, law. Okay, they also have law, but law is what? Law is based on the tradition. Okay, that means this system is not devoid of legal principles, but the basis of legal principle is not the logic and reason. It is not the jurisprudence. Jurisprudence is the philosophy of law. Okay. Here it may be, the tradition may be the basis of jurisprudence or the philosophy of law. Okay. So what are the sources? Let's say like Kautilya identifies. Okay. So dharma. Okay. The highest source. Okay. Dharma here means it is the law which is given in the scriptures. Okay. The duty of the king, how the king should be, how the king should behave. Okay. So the scriptures, okay, or whatever the literature exists, okay, that identifies what is the dharma. Okay. It is also known as the one ashram dharma. Okay, the four ashramas identified in the Indian Hindu culture. Okay, brahmacharya, then grihasth, vanprasth, and sannyas. So he's saying this dharma is the basis for the king to exercise the power. Okay. Then there will be laws or provisions made by the councils. Okay. So provisions or the laws which are made by the councils. Now see, so they cannot do anything which goes beyond this. So it is not that in a patrimonial or in a monarchical system the laws are not made, but the laws are made subject to the restriction of the dharma or the tradition. So the tradition or the main primary task of the king is what? To enforce the tradition on the subjects. Okay. So religion is giving huge power to the king. Okay. So most of the patrimonial systems or monarchies, okay, they were theocracies also, or they were theocratic in nature. Theocratic means deriving their power from religion. Right. The same principles will be applied here. Okay. So the kind of administrative system this will inherit will have certain features. Okay. What will be the features of this administrative system? Okay, we use the word patrimonial official dumb. What is that? Well, that the word itself is conveying it. But how will it be visible? No, there will be an elaborate mechanism which we find today also. Recruitment, okay, evaluation, merit-based recruitment. But to whom they will be subjected to the highest order. What is the highest order? The tradition or the king. So he's saying there will be a developed administration. It's not that administration is like ad hoc administration or a traditional family type of administration. It will not be. It will be an organized administration. Organized. Okay. Try to understand. That means the structure might seem to be modern. Okay. But the behavior or the function they might make the laws formally through a system. There might be elaborate structure of administration. Okay, like if you read Arthashastra, you will find out that they have elaborate structure for revenue collection, revenue generation, treasury, army, inventory control, weights and measures, environment conservation, various things are there in the Kautilya's Arthashastra. Okay. Industrial development, okay, whatever the trade which was there. So they had elaborate departments looking after that. So it was highly structured administration. So structure was almost similar to the modern structure. But how it behaved? Totally traditional in nature. They might make a law, but the law or the king and the subjects may be subjected to different laws. Okay. It is the will of the king which can change the law. Whenever the king wants, he can manipulate the law. Are you getting? So how the system behaves? Behaves like a traditional or primordial system. But how it looks like a modern system. So communication, exercise of authority, supervision, control, everything will be visible there. Okay, minute details will be recorded, everything will be documented. Okay, but its behavior may not be fully modern. Okay, it may treat individuals in a different way. The elites may enjoy more power, the elites may enjoy more privileges, and the tradition will justify it. Okay. Like Brahmins in the traditional society or even in the traditional administration. Okay. So they will be generally Amatyas or Mahamatyas, the prime ministers or the ministers coming from the particular caste only. Okay. So you will find the division of labor which exists in the society, the same type of division of labor might be visible in the administration also. Are you getting this point? So they might recruit people through an examination, but their perception would be what? That these people belonging to a particular group would be fit to manage these things. So it will not be an open recruitment. Recruitment from within a class. Okay, so it does not obviously resemble a modern day bureaucracy. Okay. So it will be organized, no doubt, okay, properly structured, but its behavior may not be like that. Okay. Okay. Subjects and the elites, or masses and the elites subjected to different set of laws. Okay. So this is in itself is not exploitative in nature, but it may turn out to be exploitative. Why? Because the interest of the elites and the subjects will always be different. Okay. Turns out to be exploitative. Okay. High level of psychophancy, chaplacy, loyalty would be valued more than the merit. Even today also you see the same thing. हाँ, तो मेरिट किसका चेक करना है ये तो कौन तय करेगा? किंग करेगा, काउंसिल करेगा. So if they decide that okay, you are not worth considering your merit, then how are you going to appeal against it? तो पैट्रोनेज हो गया कि नहीं हो गया? ठीक है, जब there is no rational system for complaint, redressal, grievance mechanism, ठीक है, कोई ऐसा इंडिपेंडेंट जस्टिस सिस्टम नहीं है. ओके, किंग इज ऑल्सो द हेड ऑफ द जस्टिस डिपार्टमेंट. ओके, सो लाइकवाइज यू कैन से दैट ऑल द पावर्स अल्टीमेटली कन्वर्ज इनटू द किंग. सो साइकोफैंसी वुड बी हाई. ओके, and people will get positions according to their proximity to the king. Okay. Now this system may also work and it might be beneficial to the traditional society. But if you compare this system to the modern day administration, will it be able to compete? No. Why? Okay, there is a theorist, Riggs, which we'll study later. Riggs is saying that for developing societies, rather than Weberian model of bureaucracy, okay, the traditional systems would be more beneficial. More easily. Okay, but when we compare the best with anything which is not the best, then we can always assume the best will perform better than which is not the best. Okay, so if we evaluate the patrimonial systems or monarchies which are organized basically on the basis of tradition and the modern day bureaucracy, then the proficiency and the skill and the technical expertise of the modern day bureaucrats or the administration is much more developed compared to these systems. Okay, the kind of problems the modern society faces, it would be difficult for them to even comprehend how they can solve. Okay. But you can say that yes, for certain functions which are traditional in nature, every traditional society has number of functions, or developing societies have number of functions which are traditional in nature, like inclusion is a traditional function. Personal laws will come in the conflict with the rule of law. So what will happen? So a major part of a person's life or the community life is governed by the personal law. So Khap Panchayat may be equally desirable and the normal judicial system may also be equally desirable. Is it or not? Where there will be local ways of resolving the conflicts between people and there will be a standard way of resolving the conflict between the people. So people might choose the local institutions, okay, for certain types of conflicts and the formal institutions for certain types of conflicts. So in developing countries we might not find absolutely a rational administration even though it is there. But how the people want to resolve their problems, okay, they might resort to both the traditional as well as the modern administrative system. So their utility is not undermined, but monarchy as a system obviously cannot exist today. But you see how the Nawabs, the princely states or the heads of the princely states today also they enjoy huge privilege within the society. Not officially, but socially. Okay. Still, who's that actor? Saif Ali Khan, still you say Nawab. Okay. Or somebody. Okay, so they are still enjoying that power, huge resource they have. Okay, considered to be some alien species. Why? Because it is the social notion or society's notion that these people are privileged class. Okay, so you cannot take away that. Okay, but yes, in terms of governing or formal institutions, they are not based on the traditional value system. But many laws today also, modern laws also derive from the tradition. Okay, like I said, personal laws. Most of the personal laws based on tradition. Even the modern laws, like any law which is influenced from the tradition. Hindu Marriage Act, तो पर्सनल लॉ पे बेस्ड है. मैटरनिटी बेनिफिट मेल को कैसे मिलेगा? अच्छा, कोई ऐसा लॉ है जो वेयर यू सी द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ ट्रेडिशन? You correct, reservation. Definitely the biggest influence of the traditional caste structure in India. Okay. IPC 377, the status of the LGBT, the judgment of the Supreme Court. Okay. Right. So there are such many laws are there. Okay. Paper 2 will study number of laws are there which are directly coming from the tradition. So even the formal systems cannot come out of the fold or the clutches of the tradition. It is impossible. Okay. So you can say that this is not totally an inefficient system. But the only drawback is that this system cannot remain stable if the society is changing. Okay. So for the modern societies or whatever we call about the industrial societies, the monarchies may not be able to contain. But even then you see that UK, Japan, okay, Bhutan, many countries today also, okay, they are observing, or the Australia and New Zealand formally accepting the Queen as their symbolic head. Is it or not? Okay. So likewise you will see the number of countries today also, Middle Eastern countries, okay, most of them are monarchical. Okay. So even today also you find that in the modern era also, after the post-industrialization also, the monarchies or the symbolic monarchies have not vanished. Why? Because people have extreme faith or trust over the tradition. In fact, people in Bhutan never wanted to eliminate the monarchy. Okay. Monarch himself led to the democratization. Okay. Nepal, after the elimination of monarchy, how many years it has been now? 7, 8, let's say. Okay. Almost 10 years. And till now there is no stable government. Okay. Go to Wilson. Okay. How Wilson said that it is easy to govern under monarchies than the democracies. One of the prime reasons for the stability of Europe compared to America. So where the huge public opinion would be there, it will be difficult to govern, whereas in monarchy the power is centralized, easy to govern, more simple to govern. Okay, because the common man may prefer being dependent rather than being empowered. Okay. So the legitimacy of these systems, okay, no doubt after the industrial revolution might not be there, but as such at the socio-cultural level, still the monarchy as a system is still acceptable by the people. You may not find it as a very rational way of governing, okay, because the administration may not be that developed. Okay, but still at the level of society or socio-cultural acceptance of monarchy is as good or as high as other political systems. Okay. Plato, Aristotle, okay, none of them were in favor of democracies. All of them favored the benevolent monarchies. Okay. Machiavelli. So the monarchies, okay, need not be considered as purely exploitative in nature. Have you understood this? भाई कुछ मजेदार बात है, मुझे ही बताओ. अच्छा. क्योंकि हंसने को कम मिलता है मुझे भी. Fine. So, okay. So you must not assume that monarchies were, okay, inefficient or purely exploitative. It is not. Okay. Only the basis of their formation was debated by Weber when he compared the basis to the rule of law systems. Okay, like you can consider them as some transitional administrative systems which eventually will evolve into the modern day bureaucracy. Okay, there is also a concept of administrative systems or bureaucracies under the rulers. That is known as the ruler-dominated bureaucracy. Okay. Where the modern day monarchs are using the bureaucratic structure. Okay, now this has not been explored by Weber, but by some later theorists. Okay, Merle Fensod. Okay, Merle Fensod is classifying variety of forms of bureaucracy. He is saying, okay, that there will be a type of bureaucracy which Weber did not conceive, where the administrative structure would be purely bureaucratic, but the political structure would be monarchical. So what you can call it? Patrimonial officialdom. Okay. Where a monarch is controlling the, or the bureaucracy is reporting to a monarch and not to a representative democracy. Understanding? So there are number of systems which are visible this way also. Okay. that purely rational bureaucracy being used by the monarch. Well, same thing, what we are doing. Everything what we are doing. Saudi Arabia developed nahi hai. British India is not that. Colonial bureaucracy. So, there may be a variety of variation. That means Weber's concern was to understand the evolution of the bureaucracy. So he identified specific social conditions which led to the emergence of bureaucracy. Okay, he did not visualize that, okay, yes, in the modern day society, the political systems or typical societal traditions may exist along with the modern day bureaucracy. That means both the values can coexist. But according to him, they cannot coexist. Okay, that is the logic of ideal type. If this happens, then necessarily this will happen. It may not be true. Okay, but that will be the criticism of Weber. Okay. So monarchies, according to Weber's analysis, okay, will create a patrimonial administrative system. The patrimonial administrative system would not be able to compete with the modern day bureaucracy. Okay. Have you understood this? You're right. No. It is according to Riggs that they can coexist. One ashram dharma. ये typical structure है. There are rules guiding the lives of people who follow the Hindu religion. ठीक है. वर्ण का मतलब क्या होता है? कलर. ठीक है. कलर से है ना वर्ण. वर्ण कलर नहीं होता है. श्वेत वर्ण नहीं सुना? तुम्हारी शादी होगी तुम्हारी मदर श्वेत वर्ण ही ढूंढेगी. ठीक है. ये भी ट्रेडिशन है. बेटा कैसा भी हो लड़की गोरी होनी चाहिए. वर्ण का मतलब क्या? वर्ण was associated. One is the color, literally. Okay, but one is also can be understood as jati. ठीक है. So jati or one system पे Indian social structure was created. Okay. So 4 varnas were identified. Okay, based on their specific origin from Brahma. Okay, so Brahma's mouth, the emergence of Brahmins, hands, the emergence of Kshatriyas, and likewise. उसको वर्ण बोला गया. Vard was related to occupation. Okay, origin and occupation. So caste system is an outcome of both the Vard system and the Jati system. Okay, but it is considered to be more closer to the Jati system. Okay, according to Louis Dumont, André Bethé, G.S. Ghurye, and there are so many sociologists. Okay, but it is like a law, rule which guides. बोल लो क्या हो गया? बोल लो. अरे हम तो पहली बेंच पे बैठ के बोल लेते थे. See, I did my BTech, then MTech, and then law, which I left it. Okay, Delhi University. Okay. Then I joined a public policy course, TN Session Institute, you might have heard in Pune. Okay, that also I left it after some time. I went and started learning production and direction. Then I wanted to make movies. Okay, but I got the first job as the third AD, and the third AD's job is only getting the costumes, lining up the actors, calling them and saying, "Sir, come on the set." So I dropped it. Okay. So I have been to variety of sectors. Okay. So the moment you, even if you don't open your mouth, I will make out. Okay. Okay. Because all this I did in a short span of time. Okay. So see, if we are talking about the monarchical systems, so monarchical regimes should not be considered exploitative. First, this is very clear, because generally what we write, the traditional authority system is reflected in monarchy. Monarchy was exploitative. It is not. Okay. Monarchy is a well-developed system. It is an efficient system. But when we are considering its role in the modern society, then probably it becomes outdated. Okay, now you're right. Okay. One of the most important manifestations of patrimonial authority system is the monarchical administration. Monarchical administration, it has the following characteristics. Number one, power centralized into an individual, that is the king, or a council on behalf of the king. Behalf of a king. Second, the decision making may follow a formal procedure. The decision making may follow a formal procedure. Decision making may follow a formal procedure, but it will be restricted by the limits of the traditional law. Okay, third, nepotism, favoritism, being common in recruitments. Even though, within this itself, you're right, even though there might be a formal procedure, but it can be easily diluted. For certain class of people. Fourth, elitism is visible. Within this, you write, separate set of laws, elitism is visible, separate set of laws for the common subjects, and the king and his group. Okay, next point. The officials will owe their loyalty to the king and not necessarily to the law. Owe their loyalty to the king and not necessarily to the law. So even if we are saying the system is hereditary, the administration may not be hereditary in nature. Okay, the Prime Minister's son will not become the Prime Minister. Okay, but Prime Minister's allegiance to the king will be an important factor determining the position of his son. The more loyal he is to the king, okay, the better opportunity for his son would be available. That is the logic of nepotism and favoritism. Okay, so generally there is a personal loyalty of the person towards the or official towards the king. It is not an impersonal loyalty to the law. Okay, so I might be loyal to the law, I might not be loyal to the Prime Minister. Okay, but here I have to be loyal to the Prime Minister or the king first, and then probably the loyalty towards the law comes second. So it is not the rule of law, it is the rule of king. Okay, thank you. Okay, the personal loyalty to the king. The personal loyalty to the king is based on, within this itself, it's not the next point, the personal loyalty to the king is based upon the allegiance to the traditions, and also because the king enjoys absolute authority. Okay, so he has the power to do anything, and that is why the allegiance also becomes more stronger towards the king. So king, what he develops a kind of close group, the group which may be coming from his own family or the group coming from the loyalist, and this strong group acts as an administration. Okay, so obviously this group will be more biased towards the king and then towards the subjects. So the interest of king may dominate the interest of the subjects, and that is why we say it might turn out to be autocratic or, for that matter, exploitative in nature. Right. Okay, don't write any point, just write a line, take another paragraph and write. Okay. The official system looks like a closed group of loyalists, kith and kin, who are having personal loyalty to the king, engaged in sycophancy, that is chaplacy, engaged in sycophancy rather than the interest of the masses. This may lead to exploitation and repression. So mostly what is the use of army here? The army is used for, one, the defense, no doubt, and the second, to protect the power of the king. Okay, the army is used or engaged by the king or the officials to perpetuate the power of the king. So any type of revolt is pacified. Okay, any type of rebellion against the king, okay, it has to be dealt with a very strong hand. So there is no concept of fundamental right, there is no concept of civil and political rights, even though the state may be welfarist in nature. Okay, it's not that they will not do welfare, okay, but they will decide the welfare and they will implement the welfare. You don't have any participation in that welfare. Okay. So Akbar or Chandragupta Maurya, for that matter, okay, or there are a number of kings, Ashoka, okay, who were welfarist in nature, and they developed so many or huge infrastructure for the welfare, but ultimately, okay, they were all powerful, much powerful compared to their own subjects. Okay, so there was always a power disparity between the masses and the people who are in power. Okay, It is visible today also, but today the officials are not free to do whatever they want. There they were free. If the king has authorized, then he is free, he can do anything. Okay. So exploitation was very common. Okay. Even though the system may not be created for exploitation. Okay. Britishers created the system for exploitation. Okay. But they did exploitation through acceptance, through consensus. Political reform and then exploitation. Constitutional authorities, administrative systems created and then exploitation. Okay. So here it is not necessary that subjects will be exploited, but yes, always there is a fear of exploitation. Like Cortelier is saying, the happiness or in the happiness of his subjects should lie the happiness of the king. Okay, so that should be the principle which must guide the king. Okay. But yes, the king will be all powerful. So it might be reverse also, and if it is reverse, then who will question the king? That in the happiness of the king lies the happiness of the subjects. You cannot question him. Okay. So king was exercising huge power, and monarchical systems, though there were various types of monarchies, okay, there were exploitative monarchies, there were benevolent monarchies, okay, and there are symbolic monarchies, variety of monarchies. But what he is talking about is a traditional monarchical system. Have you understood? There may be various forms of the monarchies themselves, but all will have a common theme. What is that? That the tradition has primacy over the rule of law. Okay. So Rex is lex. King is law. Okay. So these systems worked on the Rex, lex. Okay. King is law. So they were based on the Rex as lex or Rex lex system. Write a question below this. Latin. Kaiser is German for the king. Okay, right question. In patrimonial administration, there is no clear separation between private and official spheres. Clear separation between private and official spheres. Comment. Words 150 around. Okay. What does this mean? As the official system seems like a group of loyalists coming from kith and kin, coming from the family, coming from the blood relation, what does it mean? They work for the private interest of the king, even though they are public systems. Okay. Their primary task is to first protect the private interest of the king or the elites or the people who are in the power. Okay. The same analysis has been drawn by the Marx. Okay, when he is criticizing the bureaucracy. Bureaucracy serves the private interest. It acts like a private instrument of the bourgeois. Same thing. Okay. So he is not viewing capitalist as a rational system. He is viewing capitalism as a traditional system. Okay. So as the monarchies sustain themselves by virtue of exercising power over the subjects or creating a fear and using the official or the military or the bureaucracy as a means to perpetuate that fear. The same way the bourgeois is using the state and the bureaucracy. Okay. So they seem to be like public, but they are serving only the private interest, the interest of those who are in the power. Okay, second question. Okay. Right. The structure of the monarchical administration would be formal, but its behavior would be personal. Evaluate. Okay. So the structure would seem to be highly developed, structured, okay, departmentalized, okay, rules, regulation, procedure, communication, documentation, everything is there. But how does it behave? Highly personal manner. Personalized in what sense? People, how do people behave? They behave more like agents of the king than the agents of the law. Secondly, loyalty is an important criteria in the recruitment. Third, elites. Okay. There are a different set of laws for the elites and the masses. So highly personalized. Okay. The king, even though the law, like Kautilya is saying, the king should also be governed by the same law as the subjects. Okay. But then who is going to approve the law? It is the king. So there is a huge contradiction. If he is to be governed by the same law which he is making, and first is the violation of principle of natural justice. The second, he can never make such law which will be detrimental to his position. Okay. Even though we find instances of a democratic election for the kings also in the monarchical system. Okay. The appointment of Gopas, southern Indian states. Gopas were like kings, okay, or princes. So the Gopas were elected through a democratic process, through a consensus. So it was not necessary that the king's son would become the king in the Gopa system. Okay, he might, or it might be anybody, but that anybody will obviously come from the elites. Okay. So traditional bureaucratic system, what we have studied, aristocratic personal system of Britain. पढ़ा है कि नहीं? Spoil system, okay. Traditional bureaucratic elite or aristocratic system. So aristocratic system is what? Is like this. Okay. Spoil system may be formal, or the administrative system in the democracies may be formalized, but the existence of spoil system still depicts what? The patrimonialism. That still nepotism, favoritism, loyalty, allegiance to individuals, ideological biases, they are all visible in the appointments, transfers, suspension, recruitment, so many things. How can you be sure that the interviewer is not being influenced by the caste of the candidate, the religion of the candidate, the gender of the candidate? How can you be so sure? Because the system is not that formalized. Okay. You can only presume that he will not be biased. So every institution is being guided by the traditional value system. His life is being guided by the traditional value system. So can he take out his emotions while he is sitting on that chair? Impossible. He is not trained in the army. Okay, he is coming from the same socio-cultural background. Okay, so in recruitments even today, okay, appointments, transfers, suspension, punishments, you find patrimonialism, favoring your own against the others. Okay. So third, let us come to this, feudalism. Feudalism is what kind of system? Okay, there is a feudal lord. Okay, like feudalism, there was an estate system. Okay, and India also had a kind of estate system like zamindari, royatwari, mahalwari. Okay, variety of systems were there, revenue collection systems. Okay, so in the feudal system, okay, feudal is obviously more exploitative. Okay. So there are feudal lords who own the particular estate or the land. Okay, and there will be the workers or the labor he will engage, because the primary means of earning is the agriculture. Okay, so it is a traditional economy. So in the traditional economy, just like the relationship changes in the industrialist or the capitalist system, the primary means of occupation would be industry. And who will own the industry? The bourgeois. Who will work in the industry? The proletariat. So same way, a traditional economic system, there will be a feudal lord who will own the resource or the land, and there will be a contractual relation between the feudal lord and the slaves, masters. Okay. There was also a system of sub-infeudation. So there would be vassals. Who are vassals? The intermediaries. Okay. Now in this we assume that the feudal lord is autonomous. Okay, he is powerful, he takes his own decision, and he has created an estate system. Okay, whereas vassals will also exercise the same power, same type of power, but they will not own it. They will be only intermediaries between a bigger feudal lord, or you can say a bigger nawab or king, okay, and the vassal, to be used by him to collect the revenue. So on behalf of the vassal, even though he will be relatively autonomous to exercise the power, but he is only an instrument used by the king or the nawab or the prince, whatever, okay, for exercising the authority. So through the vassals they can exercise the authority, or the feudal lords will exercise. So this kind of relationship, okay, it is also what? It is like a regular, routinized or continued exercise of domination. Okay. So what is the relationship here? Why the slave or the workers will accept the feudal lord? Now see, tradition is not guiding them. Then what is guiding them? It is also a traditional system. But it is not the tradition which is guiding them, unlike the monarchy. So patriarchal, patrimonial, more guided by the tradition and culture, but not the feudalism. So what dominates here? The contract. Economic needs, you say, but the contract. Okay. So contract is born out of what? A formal relationship between the feudal lord and the slaves or the workers. It is not the tradition. So you can understand the emergence of the feudal system, okay, was more closer to the emergence of the bureaucracies. Are you getting that? So feudal system still had some formal elements. Okay. Because the nature of relationship shared by the feudal lord and the workers or the slaves was not the way it was shared by the king and the subjects. That might be more liberal, but this was more formal. Okay. But who will be exercising the power on the behalf of feudal lord? A very closed group of people. Okay. Generally his family members. Okay. He might create sub-intermediaries. Okay. Unless it is a big estate system. Okay. So if you assume it is a big estate, then the sub-intermediaries might be created. They all will be deriving power from the feudal lord only. Okay. So it will not be an elaborate administrative system. The primary purpose of the administrative system would be simply the economic distribution of the resource or the distribution of the revenue which is created, nothing else. He might take care of certain things, but he is not formally administering as it is being done in the monarchical system. Okay. The duties and the obligations of the feudal lord does not extend to the social and the personal and the other lives of the individuals. But even though the zamidars were also acting like that they are the rajas. Okay. But zamidars are basically not the political occupants. They are simply the means to some economic distribution of resource. But zamidar is not a political entity, just like Raja. Zamidar was basically what? An outcome of the distribution or redistribution of the economic resources, nothing else. Okay, right.
Feudal system has huge overlap with the caste system in India.
You can say that.
So it is also guided by tradition.
No, that it is guided by tradition, but it is typically, let's say, it is typical of India, not everywhere, because in India the caste got converted to class. So in India it might be visible, but not everywhere else. Okay. Number of zamidars coming from the low caste also. Western UP, Haryana, okay. Many other places you find the landed community coming from the lower caste also. Even in Bihar, okay. Huge conflict over the land between the upper caste Kshatriyas or Rajputs and the lower caste. Slowly and slowly, when they started occupying, there were a number of kings who were coming from the lower caste. Guptas were the kings coming from the lower caste only. Holkars, Guptas, and many South Indian kings. Okay, so it was not necessary that the caste is typically the factor behind the feudalism.
Even Hindu landlords and Muslims.
You can say a landholder society of Bengal. Okay. Mostly the elites were there. Okay, coming from being the Brahmins only.
In India it might be caste, but in other countries say it might be race.
You can say might be race. So caste may not be the only basis. Caste is a typical cultural entity found only in India. Okay. But race, obviously the racial discrimination was there, so that might be one of the reasons. But the specific basis of the emergence of feudal system was basically the economic system. The economic needs of the different segments. Now, a particular race emerges as economically powerful, that depends on the socio-cultural circumstance of a country. Okay. So, plantation workers going from here to there. Okay. So, obviously, large migrant force coming from the underdeveloped countries into the developed countries, estate systems emerged because huge labor surplus was available. Okay. So, tradition is there, no doubt. Tradition to hai, okay, but it is not the tradition in the basis or in the same way as the other patrimonial systems. Okay. The king is not an outcome of just the economic need of the society. Okay, king is a politico-administrative entity, whereas a feudal lord is not. Okay. Right. Right. Feudalism. A sub-feudalism, it is a subtype of traditional domination system. Here, the authority was exercised by the leader or the lord. Authority exercised by the leader or the lord by virtue of the contractual relationship between the leader and his subordinates. We are more concerned with the administrative system, not the social structure. Okay, the social structure was lords and slaves. But what was the administrative structure? Okay, maybe the lord, then a vassal or sub-intermediary, okay, and then him. Okay, or he may create number of intermediaries and then govern. So what was the relationship between the intermediary and the feudal lord or the lord? That was through a contract. Contract based on what? That this much economic revenue I want. If you are able to deliver, you have the power. If you are not, you don't have the power. So obligations were purely out of the contract. Okay. Whereas in other patrimonial systems, it is not generally the contract. It is the loyalty to the tradition. Okay, right? Right. The feudal lords formalized the administrative system through the contracts they formed with the vassals or the intermediaries. The vassals or the intermediaries. The intermediaries' legitimacy was based on the acceptance of the feudal lord as being all powerful. There was no formal law. And so, generally the power resided in the individuals. And not within a system. Okay, so you might have heard the term Jagir. So people running the Jagir and the riots or the people working on that Jagir, they are forming now a kind of society. Okay, a kind of purely economic society. Okay. So territorially it may be vast, it may be small, Okay, but see, the feudal lord is not deriving its legitimacy from any law, any custom. Okay, but maybe because of the inheritance from one person to the another. So tomorrow if I, let's say as a feudal lord, give to somebody the power of exercising the power on my behalf, he might be from any caste, any religion, any community, it doesn't matter, then he will instantly become powerful. Okay, but the power will be not in any system, it will be in me, which I will be giving it to him. So he will carry his power with him. Now he goes and I transfer this power to someone else. So it is basically individual based exercise of power. Okay. Positions do not matter much here. Okay. I might choose anybody because there is no system. Okay. So tomorrow somebody else is close to me, so I transfer the power to him and say, okay, now you look after this Jagir, you are the one who is going to collect the revenue and you can use any means you want. So it is like a sub-traditional system. Okay. Here tradition would not literally mean the culture, the practice or some divine norms. It is not related to that. Okay. It is only from a transfer of power from individual to individual. Because you own the land and those people are dependent on that land, so they are dependent on you. Are you getting this point? But they are all the variations of the traditional system, no doubt. Okay. But feudalism is more economic based. Other may be more culture based. Okay. So is it required? This system is needed or not today? Patrimonial systems will work today. What is wrong with them? They have worked for the maximum duration of the human civilization. They have been beneficial to a variety of societies. Many developments, art, literature, architecture took place under the monarchs. Okay. They also exercised something known as charismatic leadership. So one monarch different from the another monarch. Some monarchs became more popular, even though traditionally all were powerful, but they were not equally popular. Even if you see today the democracy runs on what? A kind of traditional as well as charismatic system both. People are assumed to be the leaders. Because they belong to a particular family, they are coming from a particular background, so they are leaders. So we are not choosing our leaders. The leaders are being imposed on us. It is a patrimonial system. The basis of choosing the leader is not merit, neither some rational ground. It is purely the charisma. Okay. In democracy, how do we vote? Popularity of the leader. What else? Nobody goes for a rational scrutiny of the background of the leader, his educational qualification, credentials, anything. We don't look. We just go and vote because somebody is popular. So the society's inherent value system has not rationalized. We still think in terms of tradition, in terms of emotion, in terms of superiority of somebody or some race over somebody. This is what we think. Is it true or not? Okay, you take any industry, any sector, there are some prejudiced notions which are always dominating them. Okay. Civil services in India, recruitment mostly from certain universities, let's say for first 30, 40, 50 years. Inherent biasness, that people from studying from this institute would be good. Okay. Entertainment industry, political system, anywhere you see. Is it not a traditional system? Tradition does not mean always culture. Tradition also means the continuation of something without resistance or without reason. If it is not formalized and still it is continuing, what does it mean? It is traditional. Where you accept things to be the way they are, conventionally, it is tradition. Are you getting this point? So patriarchy system, okay, the format of the family structure that we follow, so many other things may be tradition. Is it or not? Okay, but traditions may not be totally irrational. Okay. If the Weber says that the modern societies are rational and the traditional societies were not rational, it is not correct. His basis of rationality is something Western in nature. What we assume rationality is something different. What he perceives rationality may be something different. Okay, his rationality is more based on the science, mathematics, physics, astrophysics, whatever. The logic and reasoning coming from the scientific temper. Okay, but the traditional societies were also highly rational because they knew how to efficiently carry on their functions. They had their own traditional method of increasing efficiencies. Okay. Obviously, if you want to compare a kabutar with an email, obviously that cannot be done. Is it or not? Okay. Okay, but what kabutar can do, email may not be able to do it. Agree? So what they used, okay, may not be totally relevant today, but it might not be irrational. Okay. So in their society or in those society, what were the best means? They used it. So if they had the preference for best over the average, then they were rational. Are you understanding this simple logic? When they preferred the best over the average, that means they were rational. Okay, so you cannot say that these systems are totally irrational. They are not irrational. Don't use the word irrational. Irrational means which is without any logic. Okay. They could not or they wouldn't have survived the huge natural, what we can say, the limitations which existed. Okay. And still they emerged as powerful civilizations if they were not rational. They knew how to fight nature. Okay. They knew how to mold nature. They knew how to exploit nature, so they were highly rational. Today you are subjected to floods and disasters, and there is a huge hue and cry. Imagine what they would have done. So their sense of understanding the disasters, natural calamities was much stronger than ours, because they were using natural means. Okay. The moment there is going to be a disaster, the behavior of the animals change. So today we rely on the instruments. The instruments might not be giving us the complete data. They might fail also. Okay. They might need repair and maintenance. Okay. But imagine if the deer or the crow or the lion starts giving us symbols. So their symbols are coming from the pure understanding of the nature. Okay. So you cannot rule out that these societies were irrational. Okay, they were rational, but when we compare them to the modern developments of science and technology, okay, for those or compared to that, we call them non-rational. Okay, so don't call them irrational, call them non-rational. Let us go to the charismatic system or the value-based authority based on emotions, values. Can I say, will this statement be correct? Everybody likes ice cream. Then can I say everybody hates ice cream? That is also not correct. Then what is the correct statement? Some like ice creams and some don't like. Is there need to add some don't like if I just write some like ice cream? Okay. How you define that some? So some is variable. Okay. There is no definite there. So today those some who like ice cream may not like it tomorrow. Is it or not? Okay. So when we are talking about the worth rational authority system or the exercise of authority based on the values or preferences, okay, that obviously means that these are subject to change. Okay. Preferences or values may change because they are coming from where? They are coming from our psychology. They are coming from our internal characteristics which are governed by emotions. Okay. And it may not be purely emotional. Needs may also be one important factor. Okay. But somewhere our basis of evaluation or basis of acceptance would be not logic or reason, but it would be our emotional acceptance of certain things. Personal preference for certain things compared to the others. Okay. So it will be like an emotional response to the authority. Authority will also be exercised on the basis of understanding of our emotional response or relationship to that particular authority. So if we believe that okay, people's response would be favorable if I do this, then definitely the exercise of authority would be based on those considerations. So he is saying that the value-based systems, okay, or the value-based authority, okay, they are influenced by something known as value rationality. Okay, they are also not irrational. They are also rational. Because as a rational person, I assume that I have the ability to distinguish between what I like or what I should like and what I should not like. So without any conscious evaluation, I don't prefer anything. Because human beings have cognitive ability. So only through a conscious process, due understanding, due evaluation, okay, maybe due analysis, I choose or prefer something over the other. Okay, but that preference is coming from where? My inherent need. And it may not be a universal truth. Are you understanding this? It may not be as universal also as the tradition. It may differ from individual to individual, group to group, community to community. So it does not evaluate things or preferences based on the larger value system. It is related to individual or some group value system. Mostly individual, you can say. Okay, so he's saying if the preference for certain things arise out of my emotional needs or maybe my particular type of needs, okay, and I am ready to accept certain types of authority based on that, then that would give rise to a particular form of structure. What that structure would be? That structure would be based on the emotions, the values, the preferences of the one who are following that authority. So there will be an authority system developed where a leader will emerge or an individual or a group will emerge which will have some factually not extraordinary qualities, but assumed extraordinary qualities or assumed extraordinary emotional influence on those who are accepting him. So that becomes what? That becomes a kind of charismatic system. We're saying charisma may not be only in the individual. It may also be in the eyes of one who are viewing him. Is it or not? Beauty is in the eye of beholder. You accept it or not? Okay. So it is quite obvious that he may not be possessing some supernatural qualities. Otherwise he will become universally acceptable. So he might have some extraordinary qualities, no doubt. But that extraordinary or that perception of extraordinary is coming from the followers or the people who are accepting his authority. So it will not be a formal authority of legal type. It will be an authority more personalized in nature. Influence, okay, decision making, guiding certain things in the lives of people. Okay, it may not be like an organized formal system of exercising law and authority. Okay, it will be only the personal influence of the leader over the followers. Okay, and that might influence their lives, their family, and anything. Okay, but the influence would be more personalized from individual to individual or individual to few groups. Okay. So the charismatic authority system or the value-based authority system may not need elaborate administrative structure. Okay. Because here it is the personal quality of the leader which influences people. So he need to be closer to the people. He need to be closer to the followers. And also his territorial extent or exercise of authority may not be that wide. The numerical numbers may not be that large. Okay. It may also not be restricted to a particular territory also. It may be beyond that also. Okay. That means there will not be a definite shape of this authority structure. It may be exercised on the basis of both the formal elements as well as the informal elements. In fact, informal elements dominate here. Things which are more conventional in nature, things which are more spontaneous in nature, things which are more emotional in nature, more informal. Okay. So he's saying this will be, or one of the important basis of exercising this type of authority and converting into some stable system. It is not stable, but into a transitional structure. Okay. So this authority may be visible in the form of charismatic systems or so how you define charisma? Is charisma a fact? Is it related to some scientific evaluation of the charismatic features? No. Then you have heard of mass euphoria. How euphoria takes place? No, it takes place instantly. But why people will get into euphoria? You've seen the football fans? Okay. So everybody is a fan of Messi. Okay. Or maybe in our olden days. Okay. There were a number of other players. Okay. Germans. Okay. So they were very popular. Michael Jackson. Okay. He used to touch somebody, the person used to fall on the ground. Okay. Even though obviously he was not transmitting electricity. Okay. But then that was the response which people had towards why? No, euphoria is a conscious state or a kind of subconscious state? How do you reach that subconscious state? Through the conscious state. Okay, there is no subconscious. There is always, everything is conscious. Okay, new theory of psychology, psycho-cybernetics. Okay, which eliminates the distinction between conscious and subconscious. What you acquire subconsciously is also coming from the conscious only. Okay. You might see certain things but not think about it, it will enter into your subconscious. But for that you have to see it. When you are seeing it, that means your conscious functions are working. You are performing a conscious function. Okay. So is it conscious, subconscious? Oh, I don't have no interest in teaching psychology, but I like it. Okay. But how you are not able to contain that emotion. It is conscious, no doubt. Okay. You comprehend the reality, you understand the reality, but the kind of emotional response that it triggers within you, okay, that is not, or it cannot be controlled by you. So what? Your body movements, your hand movements, your language, okay, it might be beyond your control. So you become euphoric. It is said that it is something like it is not in the state of spiritualism, okay, but this is something like the word used by Maslow later, okay, in his hierarchy of needs, okay, motivation. So he's saying that people may feel, okay, it may not be the actual spiritualism, they are not in that state, okay, neither they are in the normal state, okay, these are like peak experiences. Okay, by this he meant fulfill the needs of the people, but the psychological logic is coming from the peak experiences. So you might feel peak experiences. Okay, you go to a kirtan, everybody is dancing. You have seen ISKCON temples, visited ISKCON temples? Okay. Anybody who's visited Pune? You have been in Pune? Okay. Have been to Osho's ashram? Nobody. You've tried being there ever? Why? One of the most profound intellectuals. Okay. So you find number of peak experiences there. You feel, you see people doing it. Okay. Suddenly you join them. Okay. That means what? Okay. Your conscious has acted. But after a point of time, what happens? Okay. It creates a kind of euphoria, a state of euphoria. So the charisma is basically acting on that. Okay. Though people accept things consciously, but they derive their peak experiences out of accepting somebody as charismatic. Okay. They feel that peak experience. Whenever they are closer to that leader, or whenever the leader's influence is there directly, okay, then they feel peak experiences. And these peak experiences bind them with the leader, which they don't feel with the others. ठीक है, तो अमिताभ बच्चन को देखा, वो सक्सेस ये होना चाहिए, peak experience only, because eventually, okay, obviously we all have some needs or emotional needs. We are driven by them. So we might have idealized some ends for ourselves, and that end might be visible in that person. Some traits which we desire, okay, some qualities which may value, but it may not be within us, okay, but we may desire it, and it might be visible in someone. So what do? You derive your peak experiences from the leader. Okay. The leader may also be giving you certain benefits, health, like religious leaders are there, spiritualism, health, okay, maybe some problems are solved, something happens, so you might derive or you might assume the utility of that leader in your life. Okay. So charisma is not some individual traits or group of some traits available within the individual. Okay. It might be born out of the leader and the perceived qualities of the leader by the followers. Okay. Leader per se or individually he might not be nothing. But it will be the perception of the followers which will make him supernatural or extraordinary. Okay. So the leaders exercise this authority. Okay. Charisma may be associated with certain acts of the leader. Okay, certain habits of the leader, certain traits of the leader. But what happens maybe over the time when these traits fade away, okay, the peak experience which the people used to feel by relating with the leader or by coming under the influence of the leader, they might not experience. So what will happen? The charisma will reduce. So what type of administrative systems will emerge here? Unstable. Again the same. Some group of loyalists. The people or the perception of the leader that these people might be able to promote and protect his charisma over the followers. Okay. So he will develop a very close group of people. Okay. Hanipreet. Yes. Okay, that is the administrative system the Ram Rahim had. Okay. Counselor, come salahkar, come advisor, come treasurer, come financer. Okay. Everything come. Okay. So that kind of administrative system. Now it will not have actually an administrative system. Okay. But imagine there are certain leaders, okay, who emerge powerful due to charisma. But over the time they try to join the formal systems. Like Mandela, Gandhi. Gandhi did not join the formal system, it's okay. But also he was the member of the Congress committee. Okay. Or for that matter, okay, many leaders which emerge under the democracy. Okay. So initially they start the exercise of their domination, which is not actually the domination, it is only the influence. Okay. Through the charismatic authority, but they might slowly and slowly become part of the formal system. So what they will do? Now this charisma they have formalized. They will win an election like Kejriwal did. Okay, Anna Haraare could not do it. Okay. So what he did? He formalized the charisma into a political party and then acquired the power. Are you getting this? So or you can say the positions, okay, or the people who acquire or exercise huge power within the formal systems, they may be actually coming out of the charismatic system. So the charismatic system, authority systems, they are basically the conduits for the formal systems or the traditional system. Okay. Or they may be the initiator of many of the leaders exercising the formal power through the organized systems. Okay, so they don't need an elaborate administrative system. Okay. So this charisma, as it is unstable, it is individual led or group led or based on some supernatural qualities. Okay, it may be in the form of a sect, it may be in the form of a cult, it may be in the form of an individual. Okay, but this charisma may not be permanent because it cannot be transferred. Okay. So it might be formalized. Okay. Now the way of formalization may be a law, or the way of formalization may be the tradition. Okay. Like ISKCON is an organized system, but it is formalized based on the tradition. Okay. May not be necessarily around a person, may have been initiated by one person. It was. Okay. Or it can be organized into a formal system. Okay. Like the Kejriwal, organizing the charisma into a formal political party. So it moves through the process of formalization either through the tradition or through the law. Okay, that is known as routinization of charisma. Routinization of charisma. Okay. There are elements of irrationality here. Okay. It may not be totally called as non-rational. Okay. In non-rational also there is something rational. Okay. But here irrationality, like I said, the sudden euphoric nature, euphoric behavior of the followers. Okay. That may be considered irrational. Why? Because there the person is not able to evaluate the pros and cons of whatever is being done. Okay. The systems themselves are maybe based on those kind of euphoric, okay, generating euphoric feelings and then exercising the domination. Okay. So there will be uncalculated system, unorganized system. Okay, right? Charismatic authority system. Okay. These are an outcome of the devotion of the followers towards their leader, who is believed to be supernatural or having some extraordinary qualities. Okay, the next point. The leader would have generated a normative pattern. You underline this word. Would have generated a normative pattern that is value based. How slowly the follower starts accepting him. Okay. Normative pattern or an order which would have influenced the followers over a period of time. So even if such powers exist or don't exist, it is the belief of the followers that such powers exist. And they are important. Maybe for them or somebody or whatever. Okay. Right. The followers develop a personal equation with the leaders. And might experience or might have peak experiences that is that is the ideal state of bliss. Ideal state of bliss, happiness, bliss, desired by them. Okay. The followers legitimize the claim. The followers legitimize the claim of extraordinary power of the leader. There is a voluntary compliance. In fact, more than willingness. There is a voluntary compliance, in fact, more than willingness of the followers towards their leader. What does it mean? Now, in a traditional system, you obey the law because it is based on custom. The custom may not be acceptable by you, but you accept it because everybody else is accepting it, or it has been done that way. Okay. In a legal rational system, let's say, you accept it because there is a law. Okay. Why you are accepting it here? You might not believe in the law, but you accept it. Why you accept it here? Pure commitment, pure emotional response. So can we say the charismatic domination is the purest form of domination? Because it is coming out of the commitment and devotion. It is the purest form of domination. Okay. There is no fear, there is no legal punishment. Okay, there is no fear of the tradition, value or culture or system or whatever. Social ostracization, social exclusion, you don't have. So it is your pure individual emotional response towards the qualities of the leader. So he considered it as a pure form of domination. Okay, there is no dilution as far as the exchange of authority and the compliance of the exchange of authority by the superior or the leader and the compliance by the follower is considered. Nothing can dilute it. Okay. Are you getting this point? And that is why the emergence of so many leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, okay, film stars, sports star, and so on. Okay. Are you getting this logic? See? So, the entire society wants education. Everybody is working like cats and dogs for being educated today. Okay, that is what we are doing. Running from pillar to post, here. Okay. But whom do we idolize? Dhoni, high school pass. Tendulkar. Okay. Then Ranveer Singh, Ranbir Kapoor. All 10th, 12th, 8th pass. Okay. But no doubt, they have excelled in their fields. Okay. But their excellence is not an empirical excellence, because it cannot be calculated. It is purely the perception of the people. Okay, that if somebody has or somebody excels in sports, okay, then he has done something extraordinary. It is our belief. Okay, no doubt that excellence is also respected. But the logic is what? That when we are seeking the excellence, we are not going through the pure form of knowledge. Okay. So scientific excellence or academic excellence is not the only excellence. Okay, in fact it is the lowest form of excellence that may be socially accepted, economically. No way gratifying. Okay, but still people pursue it because that is also an addiction. Or you can say it becomes a habit. There is no other skill available, so you can study. Agreed? People say studying is very difficult, but what is the option? Is there any other option? You can't start playing cricket now. Okay. You can't try your luck in some other areas, and so on and so forth. So obviously it becomes a compulsion also. But it has to be justified. Okay. Rationally it should be justified. Okay, the knowledge is the highest form of pursuit. Okay, so I am doing it, justified. Okay. I can remain poor for the knowledge because you are not able to earn from the knowledge. So what should you say? You should say that, okay, I want to be poor and still I want to be knowledgeable. It doesn't matter to me. So knowledge seekers become intellectual. Okay, they don't want material because they will not get it. Okay. So logically, you see, if we are saying that why we are pursuing the leader, definitely there must be some gratification we are deriving from the leader. Okay, we cannot say that we are not benefiting. Okay, but try to understand that that benefit would be something that would be highly desirable by us, and only our commitment towards the leader is of pure type. Nothing can dilute that commitment. Okay, only the loss of the leadership or the qualities of the leader which I presume to be the best. Unless that happens, my control or the leader's control over the follower would be absolute. Okay, it does not come with some X, Y, Z or something like nothing. Okay. So it is based out of devotion, and this devotion somewhere is absolute. Okay. Same way, the Bhakt and the God, that is a devotion. Okay, right. Right. Weber considers the charismatic form of domination. Weber considers the charismatic form of domination as the pure type of domination. Pure type of domination. Okay. Though it may be irrational in nature, irrational in nature as it is incalculable and non-systematic. Non-systematic, yet it has the potential for revolution. Potential for revolution, comma, breaking traditional rule, or even challenging the legal order, or challenging the legal authority, you can simplify, or challenging the legal authority also, or challenging the legal authority also. So see what happened in Panchkula, the followers of the Ram Rahim, okay, so they did not fear the legal authority also. So it may be quite revolutionary. Okay, it is so powerful because it is born out of emotions. So it is easy for the leader to influence the followers and create an emotional impulse out of the followers. Communalism, riots, okay, variety of what we say, this protests. Okay, Jantar Mantar closed now for the people, you know that? So you cannot protest now in Delhi, Ramlila Maidan, but most of the time it is occupied. हनुमान जी ये लोग बैठे रहते हैं वहाँ, तो आप कैसे जाएंगे भगवान के सामने? So logically, the protest, revolts, revolutions, they can be triggered through the charismatic authority system. Okay, but authority here, or the authority or the administrative system here is not present. Okay, even if it is present, it is highly loose, highly unstructured in nature. It may consist of few loyalists, some few close members of the leader, and they will what on the behalf of leader, they will exercise the authority, though they cannot acquire the authority of the leader. Okay, they will only derive some administrative powers from the leader. So leader is the constitution, leader is the rule book, leader is the emotional guide, leader is the framework. So everything is centered around what? An individual. Okay. Right. Okay. The administrative systems are highly unstructured, consisting of few loyalists, comma, kith and kin, or even group of followers. There are no professional officials neither the recruitment or other procedures are followed in the strict formal sense. Okay. Though over the time the increase in the number of followers and their management may require engaging professionals, okay, like the charismatic systems being transformed into charities or trusts, or into formal context like politics, as political parties, pressure groups, NGOs, etc. Okay. So what will happen when the number of followers will increase? Okay, they need to have some professional services. Okay. But this will only happen when the leader or when the charismatic system or administrative system would try to manage those increasing numbers. Okay. So based on that, they will convert themselves into the traditional models or into the formal models. They may not remain as the charismatic systems, but the basis of organizing the authority would be charismatic only. Okay. Unless they aggregate those numbers, they cannot formalize. There is no need. In fact, there is no requirement for them to formalize. Okay, right. So it is in essence a highly unstable. So it is in essence a highly unstable authority structure which needs to be formalized. Highly unstructured authority structure which needs to be formalized. Which needs to be formalized either towards a traditional authority system or towards a formal legal rational system. If the leader or his perceived qualities disappear, next line likhiye, if the leader or his perceived qualities disappear, then they lose the basis of, also then he loses, not they, then he loses the basis of legitimate exercise of his influence. It is hardly hereditary and it is hardly hereditary and the transfer of charisma is not possible from one to the another. So what you do? You have to formalize it. Okay, so coaching institutions emerge what? Around one teacher, around a subject, around a sub-subject. Okay. But then they have to be formalized. So people who remain around a particular subject only, okay, when they disappear, the system disappears. Okay. Any informal system, okay, which is generally individual-centric. So when the individuals will disappear, the systems will disappear. Unless they will formalize it, okay, like the coaching adjacent to us. So if you don't formalize it into a system, okay, it will be individual-led only. So there is always a limitation, and that is the limitation of the charismatic authority system, that it starts with the individual and ends with the individual. Okay. Though in number of areas or in number of countries or number of societies it has been found that yes, charismatic authority systems can also be transmitted from one generation to generation. Okay. But you cannot say it is actually the transmission of charisma. Okay. But it is a process of formalization of charisma, may not be in one generation, but maybe over a period of time. So reaching in the third generation, it is formalized and it becomes acceptable. Okay. Okay. But it is not hereditary in nature. Okay. You can use your kith and kin, your loyalists somewhere to create a perception of charisma for some time, but over the time it will vanish. So there is a need for routinization of it. Right. Okay. The migration of charismatic authority systems charismatic authority systems into traditional or legal rational. Migration of charismatic authority systems into traditional or legal rational is inevitable. And is known as routinization of charisma. Routinization of charisma. Okay, so the examples are what? Emergence of political parties around an individual leader, routinization of charisma. Okay, emergence of sects around an individual religious leader. Okay, emergence of charities and trusts around individuals. Okay, so you have to routinize it. Okay, or you have to formalize it either through tradition or make it a tradition, make it a cult, make it a sect, make it an order. Okay, or make it a formal system. Professionalize it, corporatize it, people might accept it. Okay. So you'll see today what is happening. Most of the film actors getting converted into production houses. Okay. That is a routinization of charisma. Okay. Obviously that because they cannot remain a hero throughout their life. Okay, so they have to routinize it. Okay. Sports person opening sports companies. Okay, getting into commercial manufacturing of sports products or something. What they are doing? They are using the formal means to use their charisma. So if somebody sells the product or he sells the product because he still has the charisma, okay, maybe he can create his formal institutions. Okay, so they employ the charisma not only to exercise the influence but also to formalize their influence. Advertising is purely born out of the charisma, but used by whom? The formal organizations. So Pepsi is using somebody to sell the cola. Okay, then what it is doing? It is a formal system using charismatic authority. Are you getting this? It is basically the use of charisma to improve the formal or to commercial value of the formal organization. Okay, so they might use the rational means, rational methods, but that might not be successful. Okay, because charisma is what? Pure form of domination. Once you accept it, then it is having the highest probability of the desired action or consequence you want. Okay, so if you influence people once through charisma, you know that you can get the response you want. Is this much clear? Okay, so we'll meet tomorrow. Okay, generally around 1:30 or 1:45 I will take for 2-3 days till 3rd. Okay, then again after that we'll increase it to 2:30. Okay, any doubts you have? Don't give any answers. Okay, after 3rd you give me the answers. Whatever you have given also, there are few already with me. Okay, after 3rd only you will get.